right. Well, let's get started. Um, so I want to welcome everybody to the inaugural Global Health Impact Fund and Network SPV pitch event. Just as a little background, most of you know about the fund and the network, but we are a clinician funded, founded, and managed venture fund focused on digital health. And we are also a clinician-driven network focused on innovation and investment in healthcare. We have over 100 communities focused on specialties, profession specialties, and special interest areas. And what we just recently started doing within the last 8 months is we ventured through our management group into the SPV world because many of our investors had expressed interest in not only taking the risk stratified diversified fund vehicle, but many of them like specific targeted companies and would like to invest in individual companies as well. It also gives us, we started an accelerator probably about 7 months ago now, and we finished our first cohort. And a lot of the companies were not ready for a fund investment, so this is an opportunity for the network to leverage its resources to help the companies that we're working with raise money. So this is an integral part of our ecosystem moving forward, and I felt that it was really important that in addition to our individual marketing of the SPVs, that we give an opportunity for the companies to present themselves directly to our network. And then what we will do is record all of these in addition to the 1 minute and 5 minute videos that everyone's made. And we will make this available as we market out all our investment vehicles. And they'll be able to isolate out individual companies and these presentations. So it should be valuable for both sides of the fence. With that said, I guess what we'll do is, I think the most efficient way is to go company by company. I'll give a little bit of an intro, and then I'll let you guys take it away. No, I will say Martin put me in charge of this and then he went to sleep. So I'd like maybe first how about our judges to just introduce themselves. So, Namrata, you want to start?
Thank you, Gary. Yes, delighted to be here for the Global Health Impact Network SPV pitch event. Thank you, Gary, for inviting me. My name is Namrata Rastogi. I work as an MD. I'm a primary care physician by background, and I'm a practicing physician in London. I also work as an advisor to backed VC, investing in early stage digital health companies and at seed and Series A. So delighted to be here and excited to see the startups.
Great. Now I am embarrassed to say that I don't have a list of all of the judges. I should be more prepared than this. So who else is a judge?
I'm a judge.
Okay,
my name
Doug,
is.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you. My name is Doug Nagley. I'm so excited to be here and thankful for your invitation. So thank you. Really quickly, I am not an MD. I have a science background. I was a drug inventor at Vertex Pharmaceuticals for a while back in the day, which seems like about a gazillion years ago. I worked on a couple of drug projects there and is the co-inventor of an FDA-approved drug that treats hepatitis C infections. I left that, went to business school, and became a founder and started a number of digital health companies. The largest being Infield Health. We did pre and post-op instructions on mobile phones for surgical patients. And then I've recently taken a break from the founder side, and now I'm on the investor side. And so just starting to take investments in pretty much anything healthcare related. Doesn't necessarily have to be digital health, although I'm also a coder and I'm very interested in the AI and machine learning side of healthcare, especially the diagnosis side. So that's just a little bit about me, and I'm so grateful to be here. So thanks for having me tonight.
Thank you, Doug. Who else is a judge?
I can go next.
Okay,
so
go
I'm Monica Jane. I am a general and endocrine surgeon at Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles, and I'm also a venture partner at Wavemaker 360 Health. On the innovation side, in addition to being a partner at this venture fund, which focuses on digital health and medtech seed to Series A, I'm also the surgical innovation officer at Cedars-Sinai and do a lot of work in innovation and collaboration across the LA ecosystem.
Great.
Happy to be here. Thanks so much for the invite.
Thank you, Monica. Who else?
I can go next. My name is Lachman. I'm a partner at Equity, which is a seed and Series A fund. We invest in the broader healthcare sector. My focus within the team is digital healthcare. My background is previously in big tech. I worked a few years between Microsoft and Google, working in their analytics and AI product teams. So that's my focus on the team, and my other partners focus more on the life sciences and medical devices.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Lachlan. Anyone else? Okay, here we go. So the way we will conduct this, that each presenter will have 5 minutes to present, and then we'll have a question and answer period that'll last about 5 minutes. Okay?
Gary, it was,
Yeah.
we were told 6 minutes
Oh,
and
6
4
minutes.
minutes. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
That's-
Thanks for the correction. You can see I'm winging it on this at last minute notice, although fun. So we're going to start off. The order will be, so Ariane Nishad from Pallity first, followed by Chris Pavlatos from Patient MD, Jesse Cordier from Sira Medical, Ali Bond from NuVision, and then Brian Isaac from Handzin. So to start with, so Ariane and I have, how long has it been already now? A couple of years? We've known each other.
We're working on it.
While. And I'll give you a chance to introduce yourself, but I'll do a little bit of it. So Ariane is an ED physician who also is a palliative medicine physician, and has been very focused on creating a comprehensive platform for both patients and providers in palliative care, the provision of palliative care. We've spent a lot of time with Ariane on the network as well, as I have with most of you. And we're very excited about starting to raise money within SPV for Ariane and Pallity. So Ariane, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Gary. So I am coming to you live from a DoD site. And so my apologies in advance. I'm hoping that the shared content is going to work seamlessly this time, and that the firewall isn't going to kick me out. So let's try this and see how we do. Screen.
There's your picture.
Working on it, working on it. Here we go. Can you guys see that?
No, not yet.
Uh-oh.
You can always send it
can't-
to me too. And
You can't see the screen?
No, we just see you.
Really? Okay. Let's try and fix that. Gotta love the DoD. Let's see what I can do here. Share content, screen, Zoom, screen broadcast, start broadcast. Okay.
There you
Are you able to see that?
Now we see you.
Wonderful. Yay. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks so much for coming to join. My name is Ariane Nishad, as Gary introduced me. I am an emergency medicine physician and palliative care physician. I've been in practice for approximately 20 years now. And one of the things that really called this company to me, so to speak, over the course of the last couple of years has been the observation of how people have died during COVID. I think for the first time in a really long time, we as a nation have come to accept the fact that we are in fact mortal. And I think that that was something that we historically and culturally have really struggled with, and is something that we have tried to push to the edges of our conversations and our acknowledgement of healthcare, and that dying is very much a part of living. And so I set out to really address the fact that this is not a field of medicine that is well understood. It's a field of medicine that if you're in a major metropolitan area of the United States, you probably have heard the word palliative medicine, but in reality, a lot of lay folks and even within medicine themselves have long misunderstood what palliative medicine is and who it applies for. And I think it's time to change that. So as it shows in this first slide here, you treat a disease, you win, you lose, you treat a person, you'll win no matter the outcome. And I think talking about how we die and doing it well is really essential. So palliative medicine, for those of you who are not within the medical sphere directly, is probably often confused with the term hospice. Many people think they're the same thing, and it's really not the case. So palliative and hospice are on a spectrum with each other. Palliative is intended for patients when they're in what's called a disease-modifying state. There's still something I can do to change the behavior of your serious illness. So if I use cancer as an example, which is one that most people are familiar with, we're still doing surgery, we're still doing immunotherapy, we're doing radiation, we're doing chemo. There's still something I'm doing to change how your serious illness is behaving. And you can imagine that with that come an enormous amount of adverse side effects, decision-making processes, symptom management, a whole slew of things that basically take your life, if you imagine it as a VHS tape, dating myself here now, and you take out the innards of that VHS tape and you put it on the table in front of a patient with a serious illness and say, hey, go navigate this. And so palliative medicine really focuses on helping both the patient, their family, their caregivers, their clinicians manage their disease while they're still doing treatment. And so we deal with conversations about what their dreams are, what their hopes are, what their values are, how they choose to make decisions and why. And we really establish a longitudinal relationship with those patients throughout the course of their disease. And hopefully they get to a place in their disease where it's either quiescent or in some cases curative. But in other cases, as they progress during their illness, we get them to the point where talking about how they want to die is really more driven about how they want to live while they're living with their serious illness. So everyone is touched by this problem. You know, those of us who are the quote sandwich generation like myself may have older parents who are going through this. We may have best friends going through this. We really are seeing this in every facet of people's lives. And when I talk to people about Pallity and why it's so important, literally everyone has a story. So the current system is pretty much broken. First off, it's not hospice. It's a much broader journey, as I mentioned. So there is a public relations problem, number one. We need to address that. When I talk to patients, I tell them I don't have a shiv, I don't have a black cloak. I am not the Grim Reaper here to talk about the end, which is sort of the initial response. So the first and foremost part of the problem is we need to do a lot more education. The second problem is we have a demand that is far outstripping what we currently have. So there are 15 million patients in the US right now. There are 7,600 palliative care physicians, and that number is expected to grow to 64 million by the year 2035. I suspect that number is actually higher now due to COVID and long COVID. We have underserved patients. We have too few specialists, and only 40% of the patient population who needs it even gets some form of palliative care. If you're in a major metropolitan city, if you're associated with an academic medical center, chances are there's palliative care near you. But if you take a look at the rest of the country, there are deserts. Our population is aging, and sadly, by the year 2035, oncologic disease is expected to be one of the leading causes of death in the United States. So this is a crisis. It's only going to get worse, and we don't have a great solution. So the goal here is to connect patients and family members and clinicians and healthcare systems to access to all things that are palliative care. If you can imagine, it's like trying to climb Mount Everest. We help lighten the disease burden. We help guide you with expert evidence-based medicine care. And we really provide you access across the entire spectrum of your course, no matter which lever it is you need to pull that exists within the Pallity platform. So it can be accessed anywhere, anytime, by any part of the healthcare sphere. So how do we do this? So the Pallity platform is really based on three main pillars. One pillar is the education piece and social connectivity so that patients and clinicians and family members can find the information that they need for first and foremost. There's the telehealth component of it, which is involved in delivering the actual expert level of care. So say you get a new diagnosis, you're trying to figure out what's going on. You can come onto the Pallity platform and go, oh, wow, I actually am a Pallity patient. Or maybe you're referred by your clinician or your healthcare system or even your insurer to say, hey, you got this serious diagnosis. We want you to connect with Pallity. We can then help guide them through their process and provide the expert healthcare that they need. Over the course of time, we also intend to deliver AI and machine learning-based evidence-based care that allows us to identify these patients before they, quote, fall off the cliff. So patients oftentimes get to the healthcare system when they're in crisis mode. And the goal here is to really bring them back from that point and introduce palliative care and identify patients at risk earlier on so they don't wind up in the ICU and they don't wind up in the ER unnecessarily. So what does the build entail? So like I said, education, virtual triage, social networks, remote monitoring, early warning systems, and clinical trial support. The idea is to take the analytics from all the information that we have and really identify health disparities in population health and really help those patients access the care that they need when they need it. Our hope is to combine this with additional mental health support, translational research, and really be able to identify which things are helping patients and which things are not. So if you're on a clinical trial and we find that half of the patients who are on that clinical trial are extremely distressed and are not managing their symptoms well, we can help them with that in advance and maybe help them identify other clinical trial options that might be more beneficial for them or at least better tolerated. And lastly, there's an entire goods marketplace that patients need access to, and they don't know where to go. And sending them to Dr. Google, so to speak, to go find what they need is really not a reliable resource.
So Ariane, you've got probably about a little less than a minute.
No problem. So the market size is huge. You can see the slide. Don't need to go into that too much. We want to address this dearth of access all around the country. And we want to show how palliative care basically reduces costs for everyone. We have multiple revenue sources that will help us accomplish this, many of which are covered through insurance with payors. And then there's a whole aspect of this that is really revenue that would be generated from the marketplace. We're seeking a seed investment of $1.5 million. It is to allow us to build our MVP product. We do have the telehealth in place, the social networking in place, and we are partnering with XCures, which is a clinical trials oncology platform, to basically use our system with their patients who are on clinical trials to really get the feedback, test our tools, test our analytics, figure out if patients are getting what we think they wanted, and in fact, have them give us feedback about what they think we're doing well and what we need to improve upon. There's very little competition in the US. There are lots of little micro solutions out there, but none of them are a comprehensive solution. Our ecosystem is as follows. We're in conversations right now with Care Oregon, Cigna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, the VA, Department of Defense, and they're all interested in partnering with us once we've tested our MVP. And this is our lovely team who are supporting this vision and helping build this. And last but not least, you can get a hold of me at info@pallity.com. And I look forward to talking to anyone who's interested in hearing more about it.
Great. Thank you so much, Ariane. So now we'll give our judges a chance to ask some questions. We have a 5-minute question and answer period. I'll start with Namrata.
Thank you, Gary. Ariane, that was fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing all about Pallity with us. Disclaimer that I was on the advisory board of the slide that Ariane just showed up. So my first question would be to ask you more about the competition in this market. You put up a slide, you showed us some of the companies in the market. Why haven't they built this already? And where do you see those companies in the next few years?
So there are some folks who are trying to tackle this. And honestly, the ones that have started, the company Vinca, for example, fantastic company. Ron Van Wert is at Stanford. He and I have connected. He started it as an advanced care planning platform. So Pulse, advanced care planning directives. And actually, I was one of the first testing pilot sites for it, where I was basically helping them implement that at our hospital system up in the Portland, Oregon area. And when I talked to Ryan about it, I said, I love this product, but the thing that's missing from it is the conversation piece. So you could access the forms, you could complete the forms, but who is filling out those forms makes a really big difference. You know, when I see advanced directives completed by lawyers, that's very different than an advanced directive or a pulse that's completed by a physician who understands that patient's very specific needs. So interestingly enough, I gave him that feedback and he went out and bought Resolution Care by Michael Fratkin's company, which was doing some home-based telehealth palliative care. And so they kind of latched onto that and went, wow, yeah, they really do need to go together. Metal Health is another company out there, BJ Miller's company. He's done something where he's hoping to offer the support, the emotional support, the counseling support, but they're not doing medication management. They're not doing longitudinal care of those individual patients and their families. There's Iris Care, which is again doing advanced directives, doing Pulse. So there are a couple of startups out there. Empathy, huge one, got a lot of venture capital, but it's mostly again about counseling. It's not about the actual telehealth and palliative care expert delivery. And so people can still access pieces of it, but no one actually is offering an A through Z solution that goes from the time of diagnosis all the way to the end till someone is basically eligible for hospice and post-death and bereavement. And so our goal is to really put all of those resources in one place so that families can obtain access to all of it in one location and with one delivery system.
Thanks.
Okay, Doug. Oh, you're muted.
Can't hear you.
You're muted.
All right, is that better?
Yep, much
Yes.
Thank you. That's a great presentation, and I think you're working on a really important problem for patients. I guess thank you for doing that. I have a couple of questions. One, on your MVP slide, you seem there's a lot of sort of individual products that line up from left to right in that patient journey, right? It starts with telehealth when they sort of onboard and they're early in their journey. And then there's the marketplace, which is probably right after that when they start buying things. So the marketplace is like acquiring things for your home, right? Whether it's, is that right? The marketplace is...
It can be a lot of different things, actually.
Okay.
So the marketplace in palliative care extends from any kind of products that you might need to support yourself in the home, not direct medical, durable medical equipment necessarily.
Okay.
But additional support systems that you may need. So whether you need caregivers, you need PT, you may need social work support, you may need pharmaceuticals delivered to your home. So the marketplace is such a huge piece of the pie that I don't elaborate on it too much in the initial pitch deck, because that is, imagine it being, Pallity is the center spoke of the wheel. And anything and everything a patient or family member could need is going to come off of that spoke for them to access.
Gotcha. That's helpful. Thank you. So you've got the telehealth on the beginning of the journey, and obviously that overreaches through the whole, right? Then you have the marketplace, which comes in pretty quickly after that, probably first or second or third telehealth appointment, and then is also overreaching. And then as those patients go through that journey, there's more counseling. I'm trying to do that slide from my memory, but there's more counseling that happens on after that. And I would imagine you're bringing family. I would imagine this is available to the family members and caregivers as well, to the patient.
Correct.
So as they join in, if the patient's getting closer and closer to death, let's say, and more people are coming in to be involved, they're joining that too. I guess where I'm going is I have a bit of a concern that the way you describe it, it's one product, but it looks like two, at least from the technology point of view, 2 or 3 kind of separate builds, if you will. And I'm nervous that you're not going to be able to get there with the seed round, on the technology side. And then I have questions also about the labor side. So, as you know, with telehealth, a lot of the cross-border licensing that was suspended for COVID is starting to evaporate. And that's impacting the business models of telehealth providers. And it seems as if in that slide, you are prepared to actually provide care itself, and not conversations, if you will, from whether nurses or physicians. And so I guess those two things are on my mind. I guess I could drill down to individual questions, but I'm sure you've probably thought of these things. Could you just offer me a little bit from that?
Sure, I absolutely can. So our goal is to start this on the West Coast primarily. We have licensed clinicians along the entire Western Seaboard, California, Oregon, Washington.
Nice.
We have known entities at all 3 of those states because I've worked in all 3 of those states.
Great, fantastic.
Who are already embedded clinicians who are just waiting for me to flip the switch and go live.
Yeah,
you are correct about having concerns about this being an extremely broad vision. It absolutely is. This is not going to all be built with the MVP round. The MVP round is very specifically going to take 500 to 1,000 patients from the XCures platform. We're going to deliver services to that specific subset of patients. We're going to test out our technology. We already have the telehealth EMR portion of this built and ready to go. We're basically white labeling somebody else's because we weren't going to build this from scratch.
Absolutely.
And it makes no sense to. And the same thing
wise
with the
decision.
social networking and the connectivity. One of the things I know that both patients and caregivers struggle with tremendously is not knowing who to talk to and not having support systems for themselves within their community. So if you take a patient, for example, a 42-year-old newly diagnosed triple negative breast cancer patient, she may want to talk to other 40-year-old triple negative breast cancer patients. They can do this in a HIPAA compliant fashion. They self-identify themselves on the platform and can connect if they choose to self-select to do so with other folks on the platform. And they can offer support to each other in a HIPAA compliant, safe fashion with moderators, and where we can really help patients who want individualized diagnosis specific palliative support that is directed towards them. So the two things that will start is that aspect and the telehealth aspect with the MVP that we're launching.
Okay.
The marketplace and all the rest is going to be built out much past the seed stage.
That's really great. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. We have a limited amount of time here, so just a couple more questions from Monica and Lachlan. So Monica, why don't you jump in with a question?
Sure. My biggest question actually was related to your EMR connectivity, which you answered very briefly, saying that you utilize someone else's EMR connectivity in order to input all of the medical record data and medication data. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, XCures actually curates the patient's entire oncologic history into their database, and we have a shared API with them where their entire oncologic history is going to be downloaded into our platform, where we can access all of their oncologic data, clinicians, medications, et cetera. And our EMR interactions with those patients will take place on our side of the platform.
I see. Great. Actually, XCures is one of our portfolio companies, so I'm very familiar with their platform. So that's helpful. Thank you. That's
awesome.
The only question. That's the rest of my questions were already asked. So thank you very much for that great presentation.
Thank you, Monica.
Thank you.
And Lachlan?
Hey, Aaron, thank you for the presentation. So, question around recruiting both patients and doctors. Are the patients going to be recruited through the list of doctors that you're building up? Or is there going to be another way? And any estimate of how is it going to get cheaper, more expensive? Any estimate in terms of dollars needed per patient, right, in this first round of 500 patients? Mm-hmm. And two, as you rightly said, a lot of doctors don't have the capacity to take on extra work, right? So what's the incentive here to join your platform on top of all the other stuff they have to do?
Sure. So I can tell you that most of the palliative clinicians that I work with and talk to are extremely frustrated with the fact that their existing systems don't support their ability to provide the level of palliative care support that they would like to deliver. And I feel that we're going to offer them a work environment that's going to be more enticing. I think we're seeing a massive exodus of clinicians from your standard healthcare systems and healthcare practices, employment practices, and more of them want more control over their own schedules. So I'm not concerned about recruitment at all. I think the recruitment question will become a bigger issue as the platform scales, because I also can't make more palliative care physicians that quickly. But the way I envision designing this is that if you think of it sort of like the food pyramid, on the bottom layer is a lot of education that can actually be done using technology in a way that the experts who patients need, like myself, when someone needs the tip of the iceberg and they need someone like me to manage their very severe symptom management, they're going to need only the tip of the iceberg, and the rest of the layers will actually be built and supported within the platform and utilizing other resources. So whether it be education that is easily deliverable as videos, blogs, education pieces that are written form, to nurse practitioners, to the social workers, to the chaplains, there's a whole layer of support there that doesn't need to be physician driven. So the tip of the iceberg is the physician driven delivery care of systems. In terms of the second question, remind me what the second half was.
Any estimate of the cost to recruit the 500 oncology patients?
So the cost to recruit the 500 oncology patients in this case is zero, because XCures and us are doing this as a collaboration. So there's no cost for recruitment here. In terms of who we anticipate we're going to be paid by, I suspect payors are going to be a big part of that. The conversations we've had with existing payors is that we know that palliative care patients cost the system anywhere between $3,000 to about $7,000 per admission, that we can save them by having palliative care brought up front. Okay. So for them to pay our platform to manage those patients, to avoid ICU admissions, ED visits, and higher cost utilization is really where I think that's going to come from. I do see this having a B2C component to it. I think as patients and families become aware of the Pallity platform, they may choose to participate not through their payor, but for now, the payors are the first target audience for us.
Thanks. Thank you. So, and I'll segue into the last question, which is from the audience. I'm going to represent the audience today. And Jim Phillip, who trained me many, many moons ago at the Brigham. Jim, his question as a segue to that last answer was, what's your revenue model? How do you make money?
Right. So we make money by basically taking on, using a population health model of care, a swath of patients who are palliative, who are high risk, that payors do not want to have in their ICUs and do not want to be paying for high-end interventions that we know are not medically appropriate and at times even futile. They will be the first go at getting payment on this. I also anticipate that large medical groups and hospitals that do not have access to palliative care would be very happy to have this handed off to somebody else, as well as large oncology groups who feel that they would like to focus more on the oncologic treatment side of things rather than the actual palliative care symptom management side of things.
Okay, great. Jim, did you have any follow-up on that? I see you.
No, I wondered if there was any better revenue than just more patients and regular stuff. And it sounds like it is more patients and regular stuff.
Actually, no, it's the marketplace. I think the marketplace is where you're going to generate an enormous amount of revenue over time, because patients are paying for those things already out of pocket and they're not covered services typically. And so when you internalize that into the Pallity platform, those partnerships, and revenue from ads, from referrals, et cetera, it's actually a huge source of income.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Very different.
So, Ariane, I want to thank you for a great presentation. Anyone who's interested in the audience that's interested in any one of these companies, I posted the communities for each company on Global Health Impact Network, which you'll be able to access both Ariane and the fund if you're interested in either investing or participating in some way as a clinician. Thank you, Ariane.
Thanks so much, Gary. I'm going to go back into silent mode.
Have fun. All right. Next up is Chris Pavlatos. Chris and I have been working together now for probably over a year and a half. Chris is an anomaly. Chris is an internal medicine doc who's also an orthopedic surgeon and a great guy. And he is the CEO and co-founder of Patient MD, which is a comprehensive platform focused on empowering private practice clinicians to be able to compete in the healthcare world with the larger organizations by creating a comprehensive platform that goes across telehealth and EHRs and revenue cycle management and much, much more, as you'll hear, with a very important part of it, which is a back end that creates an interoperable environment for the clinicians and the patients. So, Chris, take it away.
Okay, let me share my screen. Let me know if you can see it. Hold on a second.
All right.
There we go. You see my screen?
We do.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, everybody. Again, my name is Chris Pavlatos. I am a practicing orthopedic surgeon here in Chicago. I also have an MBA from Kellogg, and I'm on the board of the Independent Physicians Association of America. So, Patient MD.
Whoop. Did everybody else hear me?
There's three key areas of competition they're going to need to provide here in order to compete in this market. First and foremost, you have to be able to engage with patients because we're moving into a consumer-driven market. You have to be affordable and compete in the cost of care. And three, and this is one area where private practice can certainly outdo the health systems because they provide a lower cost care. And three is in the ability to care coordinate for chronic care management, where 75% of healthcare expenditures occur. And this is one area where the physicians in private practice are going to struggle because they're a fragmented group. So what do we do for these physicians? We help grow their practices. We engage with their patients. We improve the patient experience across physicians' practices and provide care coordination. And that will occur through our integration engine that provides interoperability for information sharing and common messaging. So the experience of the patient from one office to another can be very similar. Our platform is an extensive one-stop shop patient engagement platform that we've built multiple services in the form of modules or microservices on a very that are built from the ground up, that are fully integrated on a very flexible architect platform. And these services can be white labeled for the physicians, and use of these services can accomplish the tasks that we previously taught. So for the physicians side, they provide the high touch care. We come in as a one-stop shop to provide the high tech component for them to grow their practices and engage with their patients. To help them in movement into value-based care, where our vision is that healthcare is moving into the world of precision medicine and personalized healthcare. We have a three-step process. We'll help the physicians. First comes engagement, where through our platform, we engage the physicians' practices, which allows us to engage with their patients. This will give us the opportunity to capture clinical, genomic, and IoT data that gets placed into our untethered Firebase PHR. We then use clinical decision support, predictive analytics, and artificial intelligence to empower patients and doctors with actionable information on precision medicine and personalized healthcare. We then use prescriptive analytics, where through our marketplace, we provide the products and services patients will need, where there's price and quality transparency. And this marketplace will then allow us to expand into medical tourism, both domestic and international. But we know as physicians, we have to make sure patients comply with what we tell them. We have an incentive program, and our incentive program is going to be the utilization of two tokens. One is the patient token, which is a fungible, stable utility token valued at $1 with the capital held in an escrow account. This helps gamify our platform, where patients can earn tokens based on their outcomes and their performance. And we have a second token called the health token. This is a non-fungible token that's tagged to their PHR, whose value will be dependent on the amount of data and the type of data in their PHR. And this is a way for patients to help begin monetizing their own data. Obviously, the market size for patient engagement, telehealth, and global digital health globally is huge. 38% of this growth we're going to see here in the United States. Our business model is a subscription and a transaction model. We have multiple revenue streams, and we feel we provide so many services that this creates high switching costs for our users. And with the gamification, it creates stickiness to our platform that allows us to create an economic moat. Our plan is to work closely with Gary and GHIN, both domestically and globally, through the development and growth of the clinical aspect of the network. I'm going to leverage the IPAs, of which I'm on the board of, work with large physician groups. We are creating partnerships where there's cross-selling of services, currently in discussions with state medical societies, and our platform can also be used as a startup launcher and provide a no-code environment for startups that want a minimal viable product. We've tested our product back in India in 2021, where the majority of our team is. We launched in several practices here currently in the US. We are in discussions now with a 600-man IPA group. We are in the process of developing a partnership with the Illinois State Medical Societies. We're extremely excited about what we're doing. And we're also in the discussions with a major player here in the United States. We have discussions already with several companies that want to add their services onto our platform. We think we have a competitive advantage over others in that we provide extensive services fully integrated using state-of-the-art AI and blockchain technology. We white label our solutions. We provide a composable workflow. We provide an untethered Firebase network-based PHR. We create network capability for interoperability amongst the physicians in the platform. We have an incentive model, and we will soon be granted 2 patents on our platform for patient engagement. on the blockchain platform. Our investment, we expect an EBITDA after 5 years of 61 million, with a exit value of 10 times EBITDA at 611, with an internal rate of return of 316%. 40% of our funds will be used for business development and sales, 30% for technology support and development, marketing and operations. My co-founder, Anirban Manjumdar, is a graduate of IIT Kharagpur. He has a master's in computer science and MBA from the University of Chicago, worked with Oracle Healthcare and was in Silicon Valley for about 10 years, then moved to Chicago, where we've been friends for 14 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Perfect. You finished under time. Impressive. Okay, so let's jump into the questions. Let's go in reverse order. Lockman, you want to start?
Question about the use of blockchain. Do you think that effort is worthwhile? Does it really change the incentives for people to have both those fungible and non-fungible tokens? Do you think it really changes customer behavior, and does it create any other issues from a technical standpoint to implement that?
Yeah, certainly. It certainly can be something very beneficial for the employers and the payers to use to incentivize patients, and we could deliver the type of services that they need to perform. So I think that could be very valuable. The other thing is those tokens will also be used by the business community, which can be used from imaging facilities, physical therapy, labs, pharmacies. So to incentivize patients to come to their service, for example, you could have an imaging facility say $800 for an MRI, earn $50 worth of tokens. So that patient then can use that platform, those tokens, for other services on the platform. And then the goal here is to engage patients in their healthcare, because the more patients are engaged, outcomes improves and costs are reduced.
All right. Great. Thank you. Monica.
Thank you for that presentation. I want to ask a question about your interoperability with hospitals and how the hospital-based care is brought into the platform, or how the platform communicates with the hospital, especially with like transfer of medical records and things like that. And then also from a value-based care standpoint for patients, the goal is to improve care coordination, reduce unnecessary hospitalizations. And so how can that also be brought in to provide incentives to physicians or patients?
Yeah, so from the hospital's perspective, we're currently in discussions with one of the largest health systems here in Chicago. What we can do for those hospitals, especially that have a combination of private and employed physicians, the two don't work together. They don't communicate with each other. The physicians in private practice don't trust the hospital. And what we want to do is bring those private physicians together, and we could integrate with the employed physicians at that hospitals. But we keep an arm's length. We provide that arm's length relationship for the independent physicians and the private docs from the hospital, which gives them a sense of comfort. So then that the entire network within that health system then can provide a much greater experience to the patient, both in and out. What was the other question? Oh, the interoperability. Our integration engine can use any form of HL7 version 2.3, but our goal is to use Fire-based APIs, because that's the basis of where we think interoperability will occur. And that's where the market's going anyways, because the government's mandating this. And what really helps our platform moving forward is we built this with the expectation of what was going to happen, that we needed to have data liquidity and price and quality transparency. And that's what we expected. And our goal here is to gather information that we can create an educated consumer and then provide them the services that they need to manage their health and healthcare. And so the big area in healthcare where you really need, what you need is not only gather the data, but have the connectivity of the patient and the doctor so you could influence decision making. And that's what our objective has always been.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Doug?
Hi, thank you. That was a really well thought out presentation. Thank you. I've got, I went way over on time on my last question, so I'll keep this one very brief. I'm thinking about the sales process when one of your sales reps is in the private practice group, talking to them about your platform. And I can imagine that group either already has MyChart or whatever eClinicalWorks runs for their patient engagement, patient management, and what's the incentive for the doctor group to leave their own EHR, the patient-facing part of their EHR, and start a new patient-facing piece of technology that may or may not integrate to their current EHR? And EHR integration, as you probably know, is not usually a technology problem. It's a human and policy problem. Yeah. So walk me through why a doctor group would leave their whatever they're running right now, which fully integrates to their EHR, and go with your stuff.
Yeah. So one of the biggest issues right now is, as we move in a consumer-driven marketplace, you need to improve the patient experience. And right now, physicians in private practice are fragmented. So when you get a specific service from one doctor, it's not the same at another doctor. They don't share information well with other doctors within their community. They don't have a common messaging to be able to deliver care coordination, like a health system, which has one information system with multiple doctors on it, where they could attract more patients, because some patients would go there only because they have all their data. So that puts the private practice physician at a disadvantage as you're being fragmented. So our objective is to start defragmenting that private practice sector and start connecting the doctors such that you become a much bigger network and can develop a brand name for yourself within your market. And physicians now, if we provide the high-tech care with patient engagements to attract patients, you could care coordinate with information sharing and messaging, but you do it at a lower cost, because physicians in private practice are lower cost than those from the hospitals. And through our marketplace, we will show comparative pricing. So patients will tend to want to go to a high-tech, high-quality, lower-cost provider. And I think that will attract a lot of people to the network, which will position those fragmented physicians to be able to compete better. Now, one of the things that we're doing, as I mentioned, is we're working with IPAs. So there's large IPAs, which I'm part of on the board. So you're getting large group of physicians that are already in the group, but they're not fully connected. They're just together for contract negotiations. So what we do is create the clinical integration and develop a brand name for the IPA, which helps everyone within the IPA. That gives them the ability then to compete with the hospitals.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. And finally, Namrata.
Thanks, Gary. That was a great presentation, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
My question is following on from Doug's about incentives for joining the platform. And from a strategy perspective, I'm wondering if you see these independent physician practices working with each other between groups in order to take higher value contracts in value-based care.
Yeah, well, they absolutely, because right now those independent physicians, their competitor is not really the independent physicians, it's the health systems. That's the biggest competitor right now out there. And because the health systems can cover a broad area and on one single platform fully integrated, they have the ability to negotiate contracts that could put those physicians at a lower tier level. So the need for physicians to collaborate and connect with each other in private practice is there. There's a desire, and we want to create a movement that brings these physicians together. So you could continue to practice as an independent physician, but you're part of something much bigger, which gives you the ability to develop a brand name within your local market and be able to provide a common experience to the patient across that area. So yes, is there a competition between independent docs, but doctors are realizing that's not their main competitor, not the independent docs, it's the health systems.
Okay, great. And Jim, did you get your answer from that first question with blockchain? Okay, probably yes. Okay, great. Chris, thank you so much. Great presentation. And I look forward to continuing our progress. All right, so next up is Jesse Cordier with Sira Medical. Global Health Impact Network has been working with Sira now for quite a while, and we're very excited about representing them on the network and helping them raise some additional capital with an SPV. So Jesse, take it away.
Well, thanks so much for the opportunity. Yeah, thanks everyone. I'm Dr. Jesse Cordier. I'm a pediatric radiologist at the UCSF Benioff Children's Hospital, and I'm co-founder of Sira Medical. And I'm excited to tell you today about how we're at Sira Medical transforming pre-surgical planning with augmented reality. Really, in a nutshell, what we're doing is taking the conventional CT or MRI imaging and using our technology, transforming this into an interactive 3D augmented reality model that surgeons can use for 360 tours, virtual cuts, reconstructions of fractures, all using a simple mobile device or head-mounted device. Just to put this in context, here's my daughter on the monkey bars here, but we may have either all seen a patient or known a child who has fallen, hurt herself, on the monkey bars, has to go to the emergency department. If she sustains an injury that's severe enough, that can lead to a CT scan. And in this particular case here, the CT scan reveals a number of bone fragments, a very complex fracture. And for surgeons and orthopedic surgeons, this is really like putting a jigsaw puzzle back together, but really almost a three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle. And if you don't get it right, the consequences are dire. Malformations, surgical redos, hardware malfunctions, a number of things if this isn't corrected appropriately. And in fact, more than 25% of technical errors in surgery are related to unexpected anatomy. That is, when the surgeon goes in and finds something that they did not expect on their interpretation or review of the CT scan. But what if there were a different way? What if we could take that same information and convert it into a high-quality augmented reality 3D model that can allow the surgeon to virtually decide what surgical approach they would take, how they would reconstruct the fracture, what type of hardware they would use, how long of a case to book, and all these downstream effects of having high-quality, easy-to-obtain augmented reality planning models. We deliver our models one of two ways, either through a head-mounted device or an iPad or iPhone using our mobile application. And in fact, we've done UCSF pilot studies with complex elbow fractures showing that there's potential for up to 21% time reduction in surgical case using this type of planning, which can translate to up to 90 minutes of additional OR time per day, so saving time and allowing for increased cases. And further, our studies on the educational side with UCSF medical students have shown that this is equally as effective as cadavers using a peer-to-peer module. We've developed significant intellectual property, extensive property around our protocols specific to optimizing our models, advanced hardware visualization, and specific to other things like 4D flow, diffusion tensor imaging, and animation. The way it works is the clinicians upload the CT to our cloud-based server, which is currently Microsoft OneDrive. This information is transformed and then turned into a 3D augmented reality model. And this process for the orthopedic side happens in a matter of minutes. So this is our corporate mission statement. Really, we bridge the gap between imaging, that high quality information, and the real world reality of surgery. This is a large market opportunity for augmented reality in healthcare. We're forecasting $2.7 billion by 2025. And we've discussed two markets, both the pre-surgical planning and the educational side, where we see certainly the pre-surgical planning being the largest market, but education and even manufacturers of implantable medical devices. So for the ability to use this as a business development tool, a design tool for rapid prototyping as well. Our target market is in orthopedics for a number of reasons. We see that this highly resonates with our clinical colleagues. It's a large market, significant procedure growth, both for relating to demographics, aging population, and increasing obesity, but also highly centralized from hospital to hospital. It is generally the number one or number two revenue generator in the hospital and is very highly imaging focused. For a number of reasons, we're looking toward orthopedics as our target market. Just a few quotes from the surgeons that we've worked with at our pilot sites, really just commenting on the impact that this has downstream on the pre-surgical planning side. So how would they approach their confidence in their treatment plan, giving them a better idea of how the anatomical components fit are just a few of the things that they've stated. We are sponsored and supported by a number of organizations, well-respected organizations, including the University of California, San Francisco, where we've been initially funded and supported by. but also have been members of transitional programs, including 500 Startups, which is now 500 Global, and Microsoft for Startups. We're also part of their mixed reality partnership program. We have a number of pilot sites going on with projects on the educational side, pre-surgical planning side, and training side, and have recently just been funded by our venture partners, Ilices Capital. Just a few notes on our competitors. On top of our intellectual property and our accurate precision data, we offer a made-to-order modeling service. So we don't take the doctors out of the conventional workflow. We have extensive leadership healthcare experience. We're building a library of segmented models that can be used for further education, training. And the types of models and the cloud basis of our models is another distinguisher. So we offer models that allow a much higher range of interactivity compared to the listed competitors. So this is our team. I'm Dr. Jesse Cordier. I'm Chief of Pediatric Radiology at UCSF Benioff Children's Hospital, San Francisco, and co-founder. I've been on faculty for about 11 years. Rick Biebern is our CEO and MBA and digital health expert. Has been involved in digital health for about 15 years, a venture capitalist and entrepreneur. Ben Laguna is our Chief Medical Officer, is a Penn graduate and Princeton graduate, an AR/VR expert and neuroradiologist. I've got a great solid board of advisors, including Han-Min Lee, who's our Vice Chair of Surgery at UCSF, Karen Ordovas, who directs cardiothoracic imaging at UW. Stefano Bini is a well-known orthopedic surgeon in the Bay Area, as a CTO of the Department of Orthopedic Surgery at here at UCSF. Sean Ong, who's literally written the book on augmented reality development for HoloLens, and Brian Lumen, who spends his time at Stryker as a senior account sales manager. We're an award-winning technology, won a number of awards and finalists in a number of competitions. And yes, we're here to bridge the gap between imaging and reality. So we are raising a $1 million seed round. We're more than halfway there. This is for use for our FDA 510K clearance and also for further business development. We're currently out in the educational space right now, hiring our first salesperson, and our CEO is currently at a educational conference now, demoing our application. So yes, I'm happy to take any questions.
Jesse, thank you so much for that presentation. So let's start this time around with Monica.
Sure. Hi, Jesse. I think we've met before, actually. I was at UCSF and part of the Catalyst program back in 2019. So I thought everything that you presented looked familiar. So congrats on advancing this technology to this point. I wanted to ask a question about the ability to superimpose what you're seeing into your operative field and whether you've done any work in that area. I know that some of the competitors in this space are doing those superimposed type images in order to better understand the operative anatomy, in addition to surgical planning.
Yes, certainly. So what we're looking at is really on the pre-surgical planning side, and a few reasons why we're focusing on the pre-surgical planning area is specifically some of the challenges that are encountered when superimposing data with focal rivalry. And then really that's a challenge that I think is still yet to be easily overcome with the idea of superimposing things directly upon a model, is that your eye, this was actually supported by an Italian study where the eye directly competes between a real world object and an augmented reality object. And in this study, they found there's actually significant differences of more than millimeters between where your eye thinks something is and where the hologram is. And because of this challenge, we see that probably the best area of focus for us with this technology is in the pre-surgical planning side, where we can affect the planned length of case, the hardware selection, the types of approach, and really get all those benefits without having to still do the intraoperative use, sort of planning on the fly type of thing. That's still there with those elements of intraoperative use case. So for us, we really wanted to focus and have our laser sight focus on the pre-surgical planning area.
Got it. And do you envision at any point in time even having this utilized in the OR, as you said, with your headsets? I know that this is still pre-surgical planning, but as we are in the OR and we reference our CT scan, Do you believe that this would be more of like a reference in the OR that's much better than trying to scroll through a CT scan while you're there, not in a superimposed fashion?
Oh, most definitely. Yes, yes. I mean, similar to ways some might use a 3D printed model where they've got this 3D printed skull of a craniofacial fracture and they're using it as a reference point. This would be and has been actually used in some of our initial clinical research toward that end. So something that can be easily referenced, manipulated, but in a much more facile way than, say, using the two-dimensional stacked images. Yes, agreed.
Great, thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay, next up is Namrata.
Thanks, Gary. My question would be just about the product itself in terms of the data and the information that is accessible to the surgeon in the pre-surgical planning stage. So from the images, I can see that the vasculature is visible. I can see that the bone structure is visible. But what about other additional information such as the soft tissue? Is that something that's valuable in the pre-planning stages as well? And also, what about adding things like the patient labs or the significant past medical history or the nature of the injury? Is that an extra layer of data that you would find valuable in this product in the pre-surgical planning stage?
Certainly. So yes, thank you for that question. So really what I think one of the nice advantages of our product is that it allows us to give a very tailored example or a tailored answer to a surgical question. So often our surgical colleagues will come with a very specific question of, I just want to know where the tumor's location is relative to the hepatic vein. That's to help them decide very critical surgical planes for whether or not they do a right hepatectomy or an extended right hepatectomy, things along those lines. So we can add custom any of the types of anatomy that the surgeon requests. So if they want to see the vessels, the bones, the skin surface, musculature, we can add those and segment those pieces on. And that is an advantage over competitors who offer something called volume rendering, which is essentially just a thick slab blob of information that has to be then windowed, leveled. What we can provide is a customized model that specifically gives the surgeon everything that they need, but nothing else beyond that, such that they're not having to wade through a lot of extraneous information. As far as additional information, such as patient history, those types of things, they can certainly be provided, to the surgeon's need, and we can even superimpose that information on text and augmented reality as well.
Great, thank you. All right, next up is Lachlan.
Thank you for the presentation, Jesse. Question about commercialization. I know it's very, very early, but just want some ballpark numbers. How much do you think you can sell each unit for? And just for my own education, how many do you need in the hospital? Is it one per OR, one per surgeon?
Yeah, right, exactly. So yeah, our plan for this would be a B2B SaaS, good, better, best model, a tiered subscription model. And our thought would be that this could be sold to within one university to multiple departments. So for instance, an orthopedic surgery, a oromaxillofacial, a cardiovascular, those areas that we see three-dimensional imaging really resonating with is where we see this at. Some of this was originally from our customer discovery as far as tiered subscription models using comparables for this type of thing. So within a large university system, we could see multiple subscriptions tiering this based on need and incentivizing them to move up to the next tier should they want. We also see from the educational standpoint, selling to universities, to allied health, using a go-to-market strategy of a lead generation service and a direct sales force. Marketing at conferences, marketing via myself, lectures that I do, my colleagues are lecturing. So really getting the word out there through those champions who will be the orthopedic surgeons who will then advocate this to their universities.
Okay. So the price is roughly $125 a year for the first one, right? And then a little more expensive for the enterprise and premium. Are those prices too low? Right? Can the price go up?
Certainly, yeah. And I think as we get out there, once we get our FDA 510K clearance, that is something that we're certainly willing to explore as far as more of a how much do you have in your pocket kind of a thing, rather than necessarily starting off with this. So some of this will be this is our initial thoughts around this. based on that. But certainly, yeah, we're open to considering other ideas. This was our initial pricing model.
Okay, thank you.
Last but not least, Doug.
Hi, thank you. This is a really great presentation. Thanks for putting it together. A lot of my questions have to, I guess, one thing really quickly, can you just really quickly walk me through that pre-surgical preparation? Because I'm not an MD, I'm not an orthopedic surgeon, but is that a 5-minute task? Is it a 20-minute task? Is it a 30-minute task? Is it individual? Sure. Is it with other orthopedic surgeons?
Sure, it's an excellent question. So, yeah, currently there's a couple of different ways that a surgeon will plan and work with me as a radiologist in this process. So, the surgeon may either call me, so they may have tried to review the films on their own, and this can be anywhere from 5, 10, 15 minutes or more, depending on the complexity of the case. It can be up to a half hour.
Sure, of course.
From that, they will either call me and say, Jesse, I need to review this case with you. We'll do it over the phone, and I'm trying to put that image in my mind into their mind. Yeah. Or this may be at a pre-surgical planning conference where we're all discussing it together. And similarly, I'm trying to paint that 3D picture into their head. One of the things, and I think this may be what your question might be leading to, is that this actually shortens that time of the planning. So rather than having them do something extra where they're having to format something, we really were deliberate in trying to make sure this didn't impact the workflow. So the surgeon will basically, rather than having to scroll through these stacks and put that image in their head, it's delivered immediately to them in a much more native way.
Yeah, you're exactly right that's where I was going. And one thing I think is interesting is in orthopedic surgery, especially in hip and knee, is bundled payments. And if where you're going on ROI is on the cost savings route and not the revenue generation, but you're going on cost savings, right? You know, we can shave X amount of minutes off MD time in pre-planning. We can shave X amount of minutes here. 21%. You said you could reduce.
Hold on just a sec. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my headphones failed. So in essence, your ROI model is adding up the minutes per physician per episode and putting a dollar value on them, which is a good way to go. The nice thing about bundled payments, as you probably know, is that the person that's saving, the entity that's saving the money is the hospital itself. And it's not Humana or Cigna. And it's really tough to convince Humana and Cigna that you are saving money because there's all sorts of biases in the data. But in essence, the people you have to, in bundled payments, the people you have to convince are your own accounting revenue department. So I guess that's not a question, it's a suggestion, and I should lay off the suggestions.
No, that's super helpful. And we've actually looked, there are CPT codes that can be used, and we've had a consultant to review the CPT codes that are relevant to 3D processing. So, the CPT codes can reimburse anywhere from 30 up to 100% depending on private versus Medicare payers.
Yeah, absolutely. And lastly, my real quick question is, what could you put in practice, probably as an experiment, not so much as an actual product, but as an experiment before you get 510K, or does everything have to wait until 510K?
So the strategy we've been taking is we're taking on the educational market right now, and in tandem doing the FDA 510K clearance. So we selected, we're down to now our top 2 candidates for regulatory consultants for the FDA 510K clearance process, but have hit the ground running doing educational sales. We know it's a smaller market, but at least show us traction and an early way to introduce physicians and other professionals to augmented reality. And we can also do our pre-sales and get letters of intent while we're working on the 510K as well.
So if you were to run some sort of experiment on your product, either to discover ROI or discover adoption, you could do it on the education part.
Correct.
Which is, again, a bit of a jackpot for you in orthopedic surgery, because it's one of the few medical products that patients can actually shop for before they're really ill, right? And so, obviously people show up in the ED with torn ACL, but people shop for hip and knee, right? They shop for other orthopedic surgery, especially ones they don't need today and tomorrow. And I could absolutely see this being something that could sway a patient for picking a certain provider over the provider that didn't have it, because it looks really cool. And unfortunately, a lot of times patients buy things because they look cool. So anyway, again, I'm suggesting, and I won't do that anymore, but this is really great. Thank you.
It's helpful. And I mean, just to touch on that, we have a pilot at OHSU specifically to patient education to help them better understand their fracture, to help reduce anxiety, to better get consent. So yeah, that's a great suggestion. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Doug, for those questions. Jesse, thanks to you for the great presentation and answers to the questions. As the network and fund, we look forward to working with you and continuing to help you raise capital and support what you're doing. Thank you again. Next up, Ali Bond from NuVision. So Ali and I have also been working together for quite a while. Ali is in my sweet space of women's health. And Ali is working to create a ecosystem which is cradle to grave in women's health, everything from reproductive medicine all the way through GYN. And I'll let her tell you a little bit more about that.
I do have to say those 3 presentations are a pretty hard act to follow. But that being said, I am, like you said, I am Ali Bond, founder and CEO of NuVision Women's Care. And all of this, of what I am doing, was inspired by my own infertility journey. So I saw this very large gap in care between general OBGYNs and fertility clinics. I saw that both personally and professionally in my trade work of sonography. So I was dealing with women on a daily basis that were struggling on a GYN side as well as a pregnancy side. One common thing that I felt every single woman expressed to me in my professional side was that they were feeling dismissed and hopeless. They were feeling uneducated. They did not feel that they had any control in their care, unsupported, that there was no real community aspect, along with the expense that came along with their care on the fertility side, and then just needing a bit more support on their GYN. So I thought to myself, there had to be a better way, and so I created it. I not only had success, these are my 2 baby girls that the infertility clinic and IVF clinic told me that I would never be able to achieve on my own. And we are proud to report that 90% of the women that we have seen have actually gotten pregnant as well. The range of women that have been trying to get pregnant, it ranges from 16 months of attempting to conceive up to even 6 years that we've had success. So we're extremely excited with those numbers. Just briefly, a few milestones, and I'm going to kind of speed through these to meet the time requirements here, but we started in late December of 2020. We quickly launched and became a leader in North America based on the volume that we were seeing. We had 1 provider in 4 states, and we saw over 2,000 patients last year. In January of this year, we launched in 31 states with 6 providers. We are already on track to see over 10,000 patients this year. We have established and closed contracts as of March this year with 48,000 employers, which will yield access to 5 million employees that will be able to use our services. Looking forward into some of the targets in the coming years, we want to move towards a PEPM model, which will allow us in 2023 to do a hybrid where they're paying about 50 cents per paycheck per employee. And this is not just for fertility services. So we really wanted to make sure that on the B2B side, they weren't feeling like they were paying for fertility services alone. We wanted to expand and make sure that we were offering packages for all of women's care. So we have a variety of packages that we offer and devices that we are include in our services to make sure that we are assisting women that are outside their childbearing ages that can access our services as well. We are currently seeking $5 million on our Series A that will assist in building out the staffing matrix along with the infrastructure and the charting system for these closed contracts that we've already established. Just of note, only 1% of existing femtech companies address chronic health, women's health conditions, despite it being a large share of that market. Looking at the competitive advantage, and a common question that is asked is, what makes us different? What's our vertical? How are we going to compete with all of these different competitors? And we broke it down into different categories. So you have the general telehealth options like an MD Live or Teladoc, which do the whole gamut of healthcare. Then you have the testing labs like a Kind Body and CNY Fertility, which do a lot on the fertility side, but are largely tailored towards IVF or financing for IVF on the B2B side. And then you have the very generalized OBGYN clinics that know very little about fertility. They're usually covered by your insurance. It's an extremely long wait to get in, and that's where we saw that large gap in care. So we took the worst of all of those different categories and turned them into the best of what we are able to offer. Looking at the problem, less than 15% of employers in the US offer any sort of fertility benefits. That's on top of the fact that OBGYN providers are generally the most difficult and have the longest waits to be seen, with an average of 24 days. I know that there are some women in the panel today, and we all know that we're not going to wait 24 days to be seen by a provider for some of those more acute issues, which we are able to handle in our membership basis. So 11 million women ages 19 to 64 are currently uninsured. 6.7 million women struggle to conceive each year. And we do believe our full market opportunity of our wide range of services is over 100 million. Our solution, and also one of our common misconceptions, is that we are just a platform. We are far beyond just a platform. We actually deliver the services themselves. So we give care and control back to the patient. We allow them more holistic options and approaches rather than just the Band-Aids that so many general OBGYNs give. We offer this on a self-pay, eliminating the accounting noise of billing, along with eliminating the liability of the Stark Law and some of those kickbacks. So the self-pay option is great on that end. Like I said, we offer a variety of packages to meet women depending on where they are in their life. Our product is both B2B, B2C. We offer the recurring revenue, that holy grail of revenue, with our memberships that we're able to offer women, along with the one and done. And we're extremely excited to be moving towards the tech platform and that infrastructure to offer the community support and education for women, depending on what services they are using. The market validation, we really like to show you this chart because it is so clear on where we stand. So the general fertility clinic workup for lab work is about $3,400. We run line by line the exact same lab work nationwide through our contracts, and we charge $750. That's still with profit margins between 44 and 65%. We like to point out that less than 3% of the women that are referred to in fertility clinics actually need IVF or IUIs. Therefore, there are 97% of women that are struggling to conceive that we are able to assist and diagnose leading up to that. And we like to also present that 75% of women's healthcare issues can be accommodated through telemedicine. Those that do need to be accommodated in person, we do have all of those nationwide lab contracts, along with any sort of diagnostic imaging, whether it be a mammogram or ultrasounds, even MRIs, that we are able to refer to. We like our revenue flywheel because I think it's a really clear-cut way to see how we've had such success so quickly, along with the traction that we've gotten with those B2B contracts. So we offered affordability first. This showed great numbers, great traction, and then that allowed us to present to the employers where they saw our ability to accommodate the needs of such high employee numbers. We are rolling them into memberships and subscription-based, offering that 360-degree care. So women that do get pregnant, we offer MFM consults, and then once they deliver, we take them back for lactation postpartum. For the women that do need any sort of IVF or possibly interested in egg freezing, our medical director is able to accommodate those with his IVF clinic, and he just started his own egg freezing as well in Orange County. We also have the comprehensive care. So if a woman has a sinus infection or any additional needs, we're able to help them with their memberships on almost a PCP standpoint. And then far down the horizon, as we are currently laser focused on women's health, but we do see ourselves expanding into full family practice in the future. Looking at our financial projections, and I'm willing to elaborate these on a more personal note, just to explain it more thoroughly, if you're interested, is we got these numbers specifically from that contract is that contract with 5 million employees. We would be seeing 1.46% of those that would be needing fertility assistance. We did all of these projections based off of varying levels of engagement, starting at just 15% engagement of that 1.46%. You can see how quickly our revenue really spikes as in 2024 when we move towards that PEPM model. And then that 2024 is with a 50 cent per paycheck per employee model. And then the 2025 is the $3 per employee per month. We also took into effect, so kind of like Ariane spoke to a little bit, there's the hub, right? So our revenue, and then you have all these different spokes of revenue streams coming in. So we not only have the B2B, we have the B2C, we have the memberships, we have all of the fertility along with now the universe. So the direct to care. This is the universe where we did a base and best case scenario. We think that these are both very attainable, if not even higher, that are going to yield great revenue in the future.
Okay, Al, we got to wrap it up here.
Okay, so our team, we have a great team, former hospital CEOs, we have exit strategists, we have our medical director here who does IVF and egg freezing, and a great team of CEO coaches and former CEOs themselves, women-led. And looking at our exit landscape, we think some of the possible acquirers are some of our competitors, and we're really excited moving forward with that. We believe our market opportunity is about a 40 million. That's with women's health and fertility put together. And that is NuVision.
Great. Allie, thank you so much. So let's jump into questions. Doug, why don't you lead off?
Yeah, thank you. Allie, that's I'm really impressed by your traction over the last 3 or 4 years, especially in the first 2 years. And it seems like a really needed product. I have 2 quick questions. One, the slide that you don't have to go back, but 3 slides ago where you showed the revenue from fertility and the revenue, the 3 columns of revenue, and the membership was the smallest column, but also as a percentage, maybe 1 or 2%. I'm doing off the top of my head. And so I guess my question is, why charge at all? If all the money is in fertility and then also in providing care and in lab testing, why charge it all? The membership.
Yeah, so I think there's elements of looking at and trying to be conservative in our projections, that we don't know the true numbers of memberships that are going to roll in on top of all these packages. So these packages are generally for a very designated amount of time. Fertility is about 9 months. For some of our like vaginismus packages, that's a 6-month process that we're hoping to roll them into, and we're going to have it scripted really well, roll them into the memberships at that time. So continuing to elaborate on those numbers and rolling them into that subscription based is what our overall goal is. Now, I do think just being able to offer the B2B side, the full comprehensive care of the memberships is something that's included in those packages. So just making sure that it's consistent in the messaging on both sides, B2B and B2C.
Gotcha. Right. And then really quickly, do you see a separate market for second and third time moms versus first time moms?
So, on the fertility side specifically?
I'm thinking of, I have 2 kids, and I remember the nervousness of my wife on when we were pregnant with our first one, and then the second one was a bit of a different. It's a smoother process, if you will. I will not use the word easier because I come in here and hit me in the back of the head. And is there anything to that?
So I think the easy answer is every pregnancy is different. So it might be easier as far as you might not have as many questions, but you might have different questions, and you might have more urgent questions, meaning I've never dealt with this and I need it answered now. I'm going to go to this service that I have, log on, and that's one thing that we have is our great access, along with the ability to message our providers immediately through our messaging system, our secure system. So if it's 2 a.m. and it doesn't matter, this is your 5th child, and for whatever reason something's going on, you still have access to that. Along with the more pregnancies you have, generally higher risk you become for this, that, or the other, that we have those services to the MFM doctor, the high risk perinatal doctor, to be able to answer those questions if necessary.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Monica.
Thanks for that presentation, Allie. Can you talk more about your partnerships? So you have partnerships with, I would assume, physicians, as you said, MFM doctors, other specialists, with surgeons who can do egg retrievals and things like that. with radiology centers, with lab centers. Can you talk about the business models with all of those, in addition to how you plan to scale those partnerships across various states to provide services to women across the country?
Yeah, so on the lab side, as well as the imaging side, that is already scaled nationwide. We have already scaled nationwide as far as our medical oversight. So with it being a non-physician owned company and the corporate practice of medicine, everyone is on a contract 1099 basis, including our medical director. That being said, with all of the chart audits and the nurse practitioners having autonomy in certain states, and then in other states needing the oversight, we do those monthly chart audits, which allow us for faster scalability and licensing based on who we onboard. We also have all of the partnerships with like Materna Medical and some of those other devices to where we have special pricing, and we've built our programs based on that special pricing, and our revenue and our revenue streams all come from that as well. So we are able to, price up or price down any of those partnerships based on our contracts.
Got it. Thank you.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Monica. Next up, Namrata.
Thanks, Gary. Ali, that was an incredible presentation. I was really inspired, and thank you for sharing your own journey, and congrats on your success so far.
Thank you.
My question is about the metrics on specifically the customer acquisition costs and also the lifetime value of the customers. Would you be able to share some insight on that?
Absolutely. So marketing agencies, we are looking at lead generation and how that's going to occur. We've looked at where that success is going to come in. We have seen differences between $1.60 per acquisition for like the memberships, and then we've seen up to $3.64, something along those lines, for the higher priced packages. So looking at that, again, the packages range between about just under $600 for like a vaginismus package, which is over 6 months. And then the diagnostic fertility package is $1,800. So you can kind of see, the $3.60 per acquisition for the $1,800 packages. But by the time women are looking for these fertility services, along with any of the services we offer, they're fairly motivated at that time to be taking action. So we want to make sure that our conversion rates are really high. And that's why we are integrating some of the greatest marketing agencies to be able to convert on those.
Do you have any sort of numbers on the average lifetime value or the duration at which the customer stays with you?
So not specifically. I know that's not the answer you want. I think that if we wanted to dive down specifically into different revenue streams, we do have those one and dones where women come in for a UTI, they pay their $25 and they're out the door. A lot of times they recognize the value that we offer along with the discounted rates they get on the membership. So they will then in turn turn into members, which we currently don't have enough data to necessarily speak to the lifetime value of that. As we have just started offering those, but looking into the other areas, those are the results that we've gotten.
Thank you.
Okay, great. And last, Lockman.
Thank you, Ali, for the presentation. So my question is related to the business model. It's just a clarification. So you were showing in one of the slides the cost, for example, for an ultrasound through a NuVision versus traditional providers, right? I remember $250 and $750.
Correct, yeah.
So who pays for that? Is it almost like an insurance program is that the copay? How should I think of those prices?
So currently what we do, if you were to go to a fertility clinic, whether you had insurance or not covering it, it would be a $3,400 bill for those labs. Whether you go through us, we always do it as a full diagnostic package. So this $1,800 package includes 2 visits with the provider, includes all your lab work, an ovulation detection tool, a semen analysis for male infertility. It includes all of these. I just made it on a more granular level just to show you the lab workup specifically. So these people, whether it is paid through their employer or whether it is paid directly to us, cash pay, that's some of the breakdown it would be.
How many insurances don't provide this service? Of all the major insurances, right? Because I know a few of them do. So is there
Well,
one?
I don't know the exact number of insurances that do or don't offer it, but the insurances that do offer it generally offer about $25,000 max for fertility benefits, and that's usually an IVF round or two. What you don't see in the fine print of that is it does not include medications. So even though you're getting $25,000 towards an egg retrieval, it is even so it doesn't include any of the medications with it. So
Okay. Excuse me. The other question was around usage, right? So once people subscribe, the people that subscribe so far, which you have great traction for 2 years, it's amazing. Do you track usage as well, right? So once people subscribe, the more they use the platform, the more value they have. Like their lifetime value should increase dramatically. So is that something that you track? And how have you seen the usage grow? Or now what to think of is like, what's your net retention, right? It should translate into retention.
And I'm sorry, I'm actually having trouble. It keeps breaking up. I'm having trouble hearing you.
Yeah, so I was asking about usage. So do you track usage of patients once they subscribe, right? Do you see them, do you have any metrics that track it? Or maybe the easiest proxy would be the net retention or churn rate for the customers that already signed up or patients that already signed up.
So we're currently, we don't have enough data to even report yet. That's just in the area that we're moving towards.
All right, that's all.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, that'll be the last question. Thank you so much, Ali, and for all the great questions. And then we'll, last but certainly not least, so a little background. Global Health Impact Fund and Global Health Impact Network are built on a platform, and that platform is the Handzin platform. We have been using it for close to 3 years now. And both Mike Galvin and Brian Isaac, who are the founders, and Henry Gooden, and our network have been working together for many years. And we also are an early investor in Handzin from the network perspective. And they are now raising additional capital through an SPV through the network. So without any further ado, I will introduce Brian Isaac, one of the co-founders of Handzin.
Hey, thanks, Gary. I appreciate it. Quick question for you is, does the slide show better if I do it this way, or how's it presenting?
That's better.
Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, thank you very much. So Brian Isaac, co-founder of Handzin, representing my other two business partners, Mike Galvin and Henry Gooden. So quick question, or something briefly have you think about is, for your workday, when you're doing your work and you're looking at your computer, do you work in a single application? Are you able to do the majority of your work in one place? Or are you using a lot of different applications? Do you do primarily your work internally within your own organization, or do you work with partners or third parties? And how much of that is your mind remembering where everything is? For this project, I'm using this mixture of applications, and for this project, I'm using that. And do you spend a lot of your time flipping between all these different applications? And that was really the question that kept coming back to us as we talked to organizations about their communication and collaboration patterns. And we just felt like with this day and age, and with our backgrounds in telecommunications, with building out cloud infrastructures for Google, Microsoft, Apple, and Amazon, is could we do something different? Could we bring a different type of communication and collaboration platform forward? Could we take advantage of Web 3.0? So really for us, if you want to think about Handzin, it's really the core capabilities of the companies that you see listed here that a lot of us are already familiar with, and the majority of us do use on a regular basis. And to the right-hand side, we just want to create, again, take those core functions and build it into a single workspace. So can you have your video calls, your file management and file sharing, your instant messaging, your calendar events, the ability to do social posts, to be able to have bulletin boards, to work outside of just your organization, work with outside partners. And could you have a workspace that's private, that is secure, that you can trust? And so the bottom left corner has a little picture of a wave with the Handzin logo cruising over the sea of applications that are out there. So we're just trying to remove those frictions and simplify workflow. I figured this graph here gives a good overview of the core applications that everybody says that they use. And as you can see in the left-hand side, that Handzin is capturing those core functionalities and putting it into a single pane of glass for our users. So really what is some of the part of the Handzin is we want to create beautiful workspaces where it can be, oops, sorry, I went one too far, where you have, oh, it's building itself, I apologize. So where you not only have the ability to put your own logo in and put your own graphics, but you can add videos, but you can also invite people into your workspaces so that you can work together with them. And one of the biggest roadblocks that we found for people is when they work with anybody that doesn't share the same domain name as them, because a lot of our enterprise licenses require us to have the same domain name for that organization to bought a license for you. So we remove that as a hurdle and as a friction point and allow you to invite people into your workspaces. So really where we are right now, a little bit of a quick timeline is that we were incorporated in September 2019. We raised $450,000 in December 2019, which allowed us to create version 1 of the platform, bring on 8 organizations, get a couple hundred people in there to give us some feedback. We then raised and closed out our pre-seed round in December of 2020 with $630,000 of additional dollars. And that allowed us to take that feedback that we got from those organizations, build out version 2 of the platform, put in additional functions and features, bring on another 30 plus organizations. And now we have over 1,500 individuals using the platform today. So some of the organizations that are on the platform that have members that are in here that are giving us feedback are on this slide here. And what was interesting is out of that group is that they kind of fell into a lot of these categories where we found the benefit of Handzin was for innovation and accelerator cohorts. Also internships and mentors fell into this category. A lot of associations and federations, especially since they're made up of individuals who don't share the same domain name, really found that as a big savior for them. Nonprofits are very interested in the platform because of privacy. A lot of the applications that are available to them today, those companies are watching your activities, they're mining your data, they're selling it for their own good. Also, startups are interested in our platform. It gives you a nice community and collaboration platform without you having to go out and build that and spend the hard-earned funds that you've just raised on that portion. We also had an interesting situation where a doctor was going to write an AI and medicine book. And so they actually used the platform and made the book the organization and made each chapter a community and then put their editors and contributors in there. So there's a lot of different ways that the platform can be used because of the way it's been built. Where we are today is we're looking to raise another $1 million and use that to build out version 3 and actually formally launch the business in Q4. We're still flying underneath the radar. We're looking forward to accelerating the projects that our existing clients are interested in doing on the platform. We're looking to onboard members aggressively and grow our revenue. And really the key part of that is to hire staff, more DevOps, product manager, customer success manager, and marketing as we fully launch the business. We're pre-revenue today. The majority of the users on our platform are using it for free in a beta format for them to provide us feedback, but we are generating a little over $150,000 annually. Our revenue model is through a subscription. We're playing in the $5 to $10 per person per month realm. And then we have additional services for any kind of customization that you'd want, white labeling. You do have the ability, because it's so customizable, to bring in your own sponsors into the platform. And then we also can tie the platform into your existing website. So we can do web hosting and web design to also make that seamless for your members, so they can go between your website and into Handzin itself. And then there's additional charges with APIs. We also have a video capability where we could charge for just people using the video for webinars and broadcasting. This is the team. Like I said, the co-founders is Henry, myself, and Mike. Then our core team, and then we do have a group of advisors that have been with us for the past year and a half. And the last piece of the message I'd like to leave with you, our tagline is, your data is not our product. It's not something that we're monetizing. We're not touching it. And we feel that this is what allows us to provide you with great trust in order to accelerate any kind of innovation and projects that you're doing. So thank you.
Great. Thanks, Brian. I'm going to lead off with the first question, just because I want to tailor your presentation. You know, a lot of the individuals listening on this might wonder, well, this doesn't sound like a healthcare company. So, you know, this sounds like a communication and collaboration platform. So talk a little bit about when we first met, and we were, you know, we were looking to build this healthcare clinician-based network. And when we met, what your initial focus for this, there are clearly a lot of business use cases for this, but on the healthcare side, Handzin's vision and mission for how you see this working in, for instance, the federated non-for-profit healthcare space.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. Really appreciate that. And I should have made that a little bit more clear. But you'll notice those companies that were on the main slide, they're all healthcare organizations. So our team got involved with healthcare, specifically pediatric healthcare, about 7 years ago, and really were bothered about the way communication and collaboration was happening. And we were working with a little over 50 children's hospitals who were trying to accelerate innovation. And that was the thing they were complaining about, was not the ability to actually share information with each other besides just using email. And how could they come together? How could they share data? How could they keep all their work in one place? And there was just no, for lack of better words, a neutral platform that they could utilize. And so that really, and for us, you know, it was time to leave our corporate jobs. We really thought we could make a big impact in healthcare. And that's really where our focus is. And it's a big part of our mission. One thing we really believe in on the nonprofit side is we really want to give back and not charge those organizations for using it. And we want to get into kind of a Tom's shoe model as well, for every paying enterprise that's paying for a license for each user, that we then give a license away to a nonprofit.
Great, thank you. So let's jump into some other questions. Lachman, you want to start?
Yes. Thank you, Brian, for the presentation. So a question about your go-to-market strategy, right? For SaaS products, it's extremely important how you're going to sell. So what's your B2B sales strategy? And then how much of your growth is going to come from, you know, product-led growth, right? Where, because it's, you know, maybe it's an email that says sent via Handzin or any other hidden marketing tactic, if you will, that will lead to growth. So can you tell me about how you're pushing the growth and how are you getting new accounts, right? First, how do you get new accounts and how do you grow those accounts?
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. So we're not going head to head with G Suite or Slack or Microsoft Teams. Our product actually plays very nicely side by side with them. I think it would be very similar to a Dropbox kind of story, which is where you have specifically innovation teams really love what we're doing because they work with a lot of outside team members, and they really struggle using those enterprise licenses that they have for their internal organization. So really seeding this within innovation teams or teams that are like that are external facing is a great place for us to start. Dropbox did something very similar where it was, it wasn't sold to the whole enterprise. It was a handful of individuals that needed that service to have storage outside of their corporate realm. And now, guess what? Now those enterprises are all paying for full licenses. So we think that's really the direction for us is that's an easy way for us to land the product and solve that pain point for those business units. But there's also then an organic piece to this. So I'm externally focused. I'm working with 10 companies. I'm inviting you into Handzin. Now you're using Handzin. You're like, that was really cool. That made it easy. I want to invite 3 of my team members in. And now you invite your 3 now. And then they say, well, that was cool. I want to use it for my team of 5. And it just becomes viral of people using it because we're making it so easy to invite people in to make your spaces.
Okay.
One more quick question.
Yes.
As you said, people who deal with, so innovation team as the focus. When you said people deal with external team members, the first thought was salespeople seem to be the best buyers, right? Because they constantly have to interact with external organizations, and they tend to buy, right? If they think something's going to help them increase their sales, they tend to spend quite a bit of money on SaaS and CRMs and any solution to help. Is that something you're exploring, or do you think that's not value for them?
Yeah, we would explore that. Definitely. There's no reason not to. We're open to all avenues and all paths. I think it's one of those things where it's not a single answer, and I think we'll find the traction very quickly. The innovation teams have just been very natural.
Okay, great, thank you. Next up will be Doug.
Hi, thanks. And Brian, that was really great. Thanks for the walkthrough. It seems that one of your competitive advantages is the HIPAA compliance that's baked in. And is that something that you plan on focusing as a differentiator?
It is. We're actually waiting to have a use case to where we can actually decide exactly how we're going to do that design. Because we started with security first, and then we layered all the services on top of it. So being HIPAA compliant won't be, I'm not going to say we're HIPAA compliant today because we haven't gone through the auditing and all that, but all the groundwork's there, the way we take advantage of the cloud services, we're leveraging AWS today, for example, will make that easy for us. We just have to pick the right design.
Yeah, that seems like something that if it's already in the box is a big selling point for you. Do you know, just real quick, what the current process for how painful is it for your future customers that the other stuff is difficult to be HIPAA complied with, if you will, Dropbox and Slack and things like that? Is it
WhatsApp, etc.?
Is it painful?
I don't think that there's been any like lawsuits or anything massive that's happened against anybody, but they always talk about it.
Yeah.
And they say, if there was something else besides WhatsApp, I would use it. And so we're focused on that, or there's something better to use in Slack, we would use it.
Yeah.
What we feel we can do is create 2 versions of Handzin, one which would be for anything that's HIPAA compliant, that you would operate out of that Handzin version. And then for all your other traditional collaboration and file sharing, and then that way we're not having to try to audit everything that you're doing.
Yeah, of course. Awesome. Thank you very much. That seems like a great idea. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Doug. Next up, Monica.
Thanks for that presentation, Brian. I wanted to ask a question about your revenues related to the platform, specifically with regard to customization. So you said that there's some white labeling that's available there. How are your team doing the customization for the people who are coming in? Are the people who are using your platform customizing it on their own? How does that work? And the second question has to do with interoperability with current websites. So for the startup model, for example, they may have a website that has some information about their model. So how do you imagine that this would connect with that? Are you looking at that the members or the employees of the startup are using Handzin? And then how does that connect with the website? Are you seeing that Handzin has additional features outside of that? Those are my main questions.
All right. Well, thank you very much. So on the website portion of it, what we are able to do is, for example, you have your website today and you have members, and you might have a member portal login, and they have a directory, and you can see people's email addresses or phone numbers. You can look them up. Maybe you have access to some documents that wouldn't be regularly made available on the website to the general public. We're taking that a step further, and when you click on that member portal, you actually then move into Handzin, and then that's where those same documents, but now your people are their live contacts. I can click on you, I can call you, I can instant message you, I can have a chat with you. I've now taken that member experience or organization's experience much further than where it is today. We can also then turn around, and if you're a member and you're looking at the website, and GHIN's doing this today, we're building this out for them, where as a member, you might be very interested in a specific area that's on the GHIN website. And so maybe it is around investments. So you click on investments, and if you're a member, we know you're a member because we can see your information and you're logged in. We can then take you straight into that investment area within GHIN where that conversation is happening, and you're just picking up. So you went from the website into the portal and into the application, and now there's all the information. You know, there's Allie with NuVision, and there's her pitch, and you can ask her questions, and you just jump right into it. So, and then we're doing the same where you're in the platform, you can click and come back out to the website. So that's some of the integration we're doing there. On the revenue side, we are fortunate that we have our own full stack DevOps team. We're not hiring third parties. We're not out there, doing contract work with that. It's all in house for us. So we're very fortunate on that standpoint. There is some customization that's available to you as a user that's already been created. We have, for lack of a better word, I'd call them billboard spaces, and you can fill that with whatever you want. You could put just your logo in there. You could put an upcoming event. So there's a lot of things that your admins have capabilities of doing that customize the look and feel. So if I would show you Handzin, I'd walk you through 5 different companies. They'd all look very different. They'd have the same format. They just have different colors and different banners in them.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you, Monica. And last but not least, Namrata.
Thanks, Gary. Hi, Brian. My question was about the pricing of the product and how that compares to similar products on the market, and also to understand a bit more about the switching costs for these companies to move over to Handzin.
Yeah, great questions. That's why we're between the $5 to $10, because we're on that list of organizations that we've listed. There isn't one that does everything. So in order for you to do your business, you're going to work with at least 2 of them, and you could work with more than 2 of them. And so that would cost you on the lowest, a minimum of $10 a month to work with 2 of them. And so, but I guess we're probably going to compare to the most to Microsoft Teams. So we'll just mirror their pricing from that aspect at this point in time.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Brian, thanks so much.
Oh, thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. So I'd like to thank all of the participants from the company perspective, and I would like to thank our esteemed panel of judges from the different walks of life in the venture space and healthcare space. If again, any additional information about the fund, the network, the SPVs, any of these companies I posted in the chat, emails and ways to connect up with the communities and with the network and the fund and with each company. And we will be having these pitch events on a monthly basis. We're going to rotate them moving forward, where it'll be on a 4-week rotation. Weekly, I meant, on a 4-week rotation, where we're going to do seed, pre-seed, seed, Series A, and then SPVs. So we'll be definitely doing these more frequently, focusing in on collaboration. And one of the last things that I'll say is just on the Global Health Impact Network side of it. If you look at the companies that we just presented today, between Pallity and PatientMD and Sira Medical, NuVision, and Handzin, one of the premises of our investment thesis and the way we work with the network is that the companies that we work with are very synergistic, and there's a lot of that in healthcare, yet healthcare has a lot of siloing of companies. And what our model is to work with companies either from a capital investment perspective or just from a idea generation to commercialization support perspective to foster collaboration. An example would be, right now we're using the PatientMD platform to collaborate from a clinical perspective and taking a specialty specific approach to it. Hence, when we're looking at women's health, we're looking at NuVision, and when we're looking at palliative care, we're looking at Pallity, and there are lots of examples. So it's not random. We are definitely working on trying to foster clinician-based collaboration in terms of of digital health and the progression of digital health and how care is provided. So we encourage anyone who's listening who's not a member to join our network. Look at being an advisor or a mentor for our fund or our accelerator, and we thank you all for attending. Thank you so much, and have a great night or day, depending on where you are. All right, bye-bye.